Yo, this is Mike from Vatican, and you are watching Sonic's Perspectives.
Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me today, bro.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm excited. We have the day off, so I have nothing else going on. This is great.
So it's just you're at a ski resort. It's just nice and relaxing out there, peaceful.
Yes, yeah. So we're recharging for the next 2 days. It's our drummer Hoseon's birthday
Cool.
tomorrow, so it all just kind of lined up for us to regroup, recharge a little bit, and like we're gonna celebrate and stuff. And like where we're staying, like there's a hot tub like to my left over here, and I'm gonna soak every bit of that up until I
I really would like a hot tub right now. It's winter in Australia, and it's really winter in Australia. But I mean, I think a lot of people in North America would be like, "Well, is it snowing?" It's like, "Well, no, but I'm still cold." So
Yeah,
you
right.
could give me that. But that's cool, man. It sounds like you guys are having a really good time on tour. But,
Yeah.
so I mean, so you're on tour with Spite, Boundaries, No Zodiac, Body Box. I mean, how's it been?
Pretty insane. This is easily the best tour the band's ever done. Just like attendance, like crowd reaction and like energy and stuff like that. So it's really cool. And it's definitely to a crowd that I don't think Vatican's ever played to before. Despite obviously being the headliner, they're bringing the most people.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it reminds, I think, all of us of a time where we were like not necessarily how do I say this? There's no like worry about preconceptions about your band for the people that are coming to the show. They don't really care. They just care if you're cool or not. And for like some of like the band's roots, which are mostly in like hardcore, it can be a little bit of a harder sell sometimes.
Sure.
And here it feels like we don't have to try as hard to try and sell it. We just get to be us, and people are loving it, and it's awesome.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
And how's live music been for you? I guess coming back out of COVID and that kind of stuff. Did you have to adjust to get back into a live setting, or was it kind of just like let's get straight into it? And I guess missing enough to not really worry about the transition.
It was, for me, it was a little jarring. I think a lot of people experience this where they like kind of realize that like they have like a lower or a smaller like exhaustion meter in the social aspect. And I remember like our first tour back with See You Space Cowboy. I think about 2 weeks in, I was like, oh, I feel crazy right now. And I don't think I ever used to feel that way before. Whenever we would go out and play before like everyone started locking down and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it just took some readjusting. I don't think it's something I struggle with as much anymore or anything. Like I'm having a great time. But there was some adjusting, and also there's just things that like I think about whenever I'm at these shows that I didn't before, and maybe it's just because like I was gross before or whatever, but now I'm like listening, I'm like, is someone near me going to cough or, something like that. I'm like on the lookout kind of, cause like whether it like be COVID or anything else, there's like literally nothing worse than getting sick on tour anyways. Cause then you're just there and you're stuck with it. And then you're like, okay, I guess I have to perform through this or something like that. And that's my worst fears, basically.
And I guess when you have a cold as an instrumental musician, you can kind of get away with it sometimes, but as a vocalist, it really does affect you badly.
Yeah, and you feel it you feel it way harder than at any point when you're not in a performance setting. Like if I'm sick at home, it is what it is. Like it's not great, but I kind of get through it. But when you have to go out there and perform, it's just harder because not only do you have to perform, but you still have to sell it. Like you're at the top of your game.
That's it. And like you are performing quite a stressful activity. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not exactly, helpful for your voice. So yeah, it's something that you really do have to navigate carefully and also like with a lot of respect. So I mean, with that, actually, what do you do to kind of keep your voice intact when on tour? What do you warm up a lot? Do you warm down a lot? Is there something that you drink or eat to kind of keep yourself in condition?
So I definitely like warm up just a little bit. I don't like to like overdo it because then you just go on, you don't realize you've tired your voice out. But um, yeah, I warm up a little bit. I usually will just do like a buzzing sound, like just like a Z like sound, zzz, like that kind of like shakes things up a little bit. I'll do a couple sirens like and just kind of like feel out like where I'm at for the day, and I'm like, oh, that feels a little rough up here, but I'm doing okay down here still, or
Yeah.
whatever. I do stuff like that, and those more are just like gauges for like what I can pull off for the
Yeah.
day.
Okay.
But generally, I mean, I just make sure that I'm pretty active, like talking to people, because
Okay.
that'll warm up your voice, like, good and well before you decide to go on and perform. If it's in the evening, that is,
Yeah.
if you're in a festival setting where it's like, oh, you play it too, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go actually do a warm up.
Yeah. That's a good move. I mean, I was gonna get to the vocal subject kind of later on, but I mean, it sounds like we've kind of flowed into it nicely here. So, I mean, how long have you been doing vocals for? I guess in a way that you would call like a serious practice or a serious development.
I'd say about 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah. So I'm a little older, like, I'm 29. But I started doing vocals around the time I was like 16. And that's like,
Mhm.
I'm like getting into the genre kind of thing. Like I'm
Yeah.
not playing in bands or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started like practicing and trying to learn when I was like 16.
Wow.
I was playing in my first local band when I was like 17, and I was only in it for like 3 months or something like that. And then like a year later is whenever I started like really going for it and like playing in a band that I was like, I want to take this pretty seriously. Yeah, so I've been doing it for a while, and it's cool because like I feel like in the last uh, year and a half since like I joined Vatican, I feel like
Mhm.
I have kind of really like gone up a couple notches, just like trying to, I don't know, get better and
Yeah.
like be a better performer, be a better singer. And I have a lot of really smart, like people that are way smarter than me in my corner that are able to help me navigate those things too.
Yeah.
Because beforehand, I'm just like kind of feeling it out, and I'm doing
Mm.
whatever like feels natural or unnatural. Sometimes I realized like when I was younger, I was hurting my voice a lot. Now uh, it feels like I have like, enough stamina to just keep going and going and going and going. Like we just did
That's
12
cool.
shows in a row, which is that's a lot of shows to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, without a day off. And even at the end of it, I was that like this morning, I was like, I could play again, you know, like,
Wow. I mean, that's really impressive because I don't want to say anyone can get a good sound, but vocalists or a lot of vocalists can get a cool sound. But the real talent is actually holding that sound not for 5 minutes, but for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So that's really cool that you've got that stamina. Um, are there vocalists or bands that you've kind of looked up to over the years to kind of develop your voice? Because your vocal range is incredibly diverse. Like in Ultra, I hear so much like almost nostalgia from like Suicide Season era, Bring Me the Horizon. I hear Say Ocean, Cleans. I hear there's like a bit of Ghost Inside. I hear like End. Like there's so much stuff going on. I was like, is this the same like one person? It was really impressive.
yeah, so I mean, over the course of years, like I feel like I've personally had like a couple different eras where I was trying to emulate a number of different people to hitting this point now where I feel like it's a little bit just like this is me. Like I'm not like
Yeah.
trying to emulate other people, but you definitely nailed a couple of those. Like I feel like the Ghost Inside is like a really obvious one for that like mid
Mm,
range, like very tough sounding stuff. Like they had a stranglehold on me for some time, and I definitely think that John is a dope vocalist. But or like that, like, you know, like Suicide Season era, or There's a Hell era of
Yeah.
Horizon. A lot of that's the huge one for me. And then a lot of like more metal stuff. Like the first band I actually like really tried to figure out how to scream along to was As I Lay Dying, which hasn't worked out for me in the long run. Didn't age super well, but like at the time, it was fine.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, vocally, it's all right, man. He's still an incredibly competent vocalist, man.
He is,
at least in that regard. So we can kind of put it there.
Yeah. But there's also one, and this is like a little bit of a giveaway because like I don't feel like a lot of people know this band anymore. There's this band from Indiana called Gwen Stacy, and that's like hometown hero stuff for me personally. Yeah. I grew up born and raised in Indiana, and their bass player's mom was my teacher in high school. So
no way.
So I like really pull from that band's sound, like the sound of their second singer, not their first one so much, but they got a second singer on their last record. His name is Jeff, and his voice is just booms. It's so good. And I remember my friend Jeff, this was probably like 4 months ago or so, but my friend Jeff reached out to me and he was like, "You son of a bitch. Like, I figured you out." And I was like, "Oh, you caught me." Like I'm like, I ripped off this guy so hard. And just figured out how to do what he was doing. And even then I still feel like I'm kind of like doing a little bit of my own thing, but I'm totally just jocking this guy.
Imitation is the highest form of flattery. So, you know, he's just got to take it as a compliment.
It's the only way to find out what your own sound is to just 100%. Find what you're liking and then like put your own spin on it and make it something that you want to hear more of. So yeah.
That's it. I think a lot of people do have like this well, I wouldn't say unachievable goal, but almost like this only target of I have to sound exactly like this person that I want to sound like. But every vocal cord is so different, so you're probably not going to get there, or maybe if you are, it's going to take a lot of practice and a lot of time and stuff. But yeah, I think the what's the word, the optimum thing is just to go for your own voice and develop that as it kind of goes along.
It totally is. And there are some people who definitely sound very similar to each other, like you know, so there's that band Shadow of Intent, like their singer, like, so they put out a Lamb of God cover I think less than a year ago. And I was like, man, A to B, like you definitely sound like a more modern Randy Blythe. Like that's kind of cool. But like it really does just depend on your instrument, because everything from here up there's, you know, it all varies person to person, the way it resonates in your face and in your chest and your back of your head. It's crazy.
That's very true. So with that, you know, talking about your development as a vocalist, were you nervous kind of coming into this band and taking over the vocals? I mean, Soul Impulse was, you know, a pretty solid record, but I mean, did you have any nerves or trepidations about joining, or were you kind of like, no, I know exactly what I need to do?
I was nervous at first. I had never really been, I'd never replaced a singer in a band really in general, but also, you know, Vatican at the time is already a band that was on people's radar, and, you know, that's the band's first full length. So whenever I was reached out to by the guys and like we were exchanging our first demos, like I was very like upfront and I was like, I'm nervous about this, like not because I don't think I can do it. I just like, I'm trying to understand, because I didn't know them like super well at the time. And I'm like, I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for what you guys really want here. And like, are you wanting me to kind of like step in and do something very similar to what John would do? Because I can, like, you know, take it or leave it, what's your thought kind of thing. And they're like, hey man, we picked you because we like you. We'll tell you if we don't like something, just do whatever you want, which was nice. I needed to hear that explicitly. Otherwise I would just overthink it forever as I'm
Sure.
going through and writing it. But like once I got over that, like pretty early on in the band, now I feel um, I feel like I have my own like stake and like role in the band at this point, especially now it's like, the full length comes out in less than a week. And I'm just like, this is this I'm driving the boat now. And
Yes,
and it feels
absolutely.
good. It feels good. I don't feel like I'm kind of just like replacing someone as much as I am more just like stepping into a new era of
Yeah.
an entity that existed before I was ever a part of it.
That's a beautiful answer, and it's segued us perfectly into talking about Ultra. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about the themes of Ultra. I mean, it focuses on a bunch of different stuff. There's familial struggle, mental struggle. There's self-control and improvement. I mean, how does this all tie into the theme of Ultra?
Um, it's funny because Ultra, it was named Ultra after the fact of everything. We actually had the finished version of the record back with us for at least a little bit by the time we named it. So whenever we were in the studio and recording it, I think I definitely went in with what I thought was a much more rounded out kind of like really nerdy concept thing that I was trying to do. And I mean, we released an EP last year called Become a New God, and the first two songs on that are like strictly conceptual. And I had a whole story thought pretty much like written out, and then we got into the studio, and I don't know like what I don't know what triggered this, but I was like, I'm scrapping everything. So I scrapped everything, and we wrote pretty much 85%. Like all the vocals and everything, I just like rewrote 85% of it. There were like 2 or 3 songs that I was like, no, these are done. These are awesome already. There's no more work to be done here.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so like we're in the studio, everyone is like really in the trenches, and they're grinding, trying to make this thing. But at the time, I was about to get married, and I think really that I just had this moment where I really just took a look inward, because I was getting ready to go into that big moment. I'm in the middle of a big moment at the time already. I'm recording this record, but I'm also getting ready to get married at the exact same time. So I'm like also helping plan the wedding with my wife as much as I can while I'm in the studio. And something just like triggered in me, and I was like, I'm just going to write something so personal and annoying and and really just go for it. And something about that was like really freeing for me in the moment. And it was also, in some cases hard, but like I really feel like across the record I do tackle like a lot of like familial issues and things like that. But there are also a lot of like there's a lot of growth within the familial issue aspect of the record as well. I mean, I wrote, not to expose too much, I wrote 4 songs about my dad, like and the last one is really just like in a way just saying like it's a song about forgiveness, but not the kind of forgiveness where it's like, I forgive you, like and we can be best friends forever now. It's the kind of forgiveness that like is really only for you, like or myself, I guess I should say in this case. So it is a kind of forgiveness. It's only for me, not the kind of forgiveness that will mend a relationship, just one that will help me as a person be able to get past this, because I can't without this. And and there a lot of the lyrics there are a dead giveaway that's kind of what I'm going for. And then like other things, like even like the semi-title track Ultra Gold, that is quite literally just about being the term ultra. It's just about being like, it's about dialing it to 11 wherever you can and going as hard as you can, really. Like a lot of the lyrics in that are just like cool shit that I thought of and I just put in there, and it was mostly just
Yeah,
because
let's
like
go.
that's how we felt. Like we wrote like all the music for it in less than 3 hours. And so the whole song just kind of came together, and we just
Wow.
knew. We were like, this song is about being bad fucking ass. And like, but while that sounds like kind of funny by itself, it still to me ties into some of that like deeper like emotional weight like
Yeah.
that the record carries, and like those things are byproducts of like trying to do things like forgive these like strange familial relationships that I've had for so long, or like um and then there's like one song that's like insanely toxic about my brother's dad, because I have a half brother. and
Mm.
and I don't know. I guess I just really took a look at like so many different things that had such an impact on me up to this point as I'm getting ready to get married. And I was like, I'm just gonna get it all off my chest and just do it. And I was also like kind of inspired by Northlane's Alien.
I was
And
just about to kind of make that comparison as well.
yeah, like, and the thing, it's funny because I didn't even actually really listen to the album as much at the time. Like, I had heard it maybe once or twice, and I was like, oh yeah, this is good, but it hadn't like really like dug its teeth or like sank its claws into me
Mm.
yet at the time. But I definitely like saw like lyrically what they were going for there, and I was just like, he's really going in right now, and maybe I should just like full send it and also do the same, because I because I'm over here, I'm like, I'm rooting for you, keep doing it. Like
Yes,
I'm like,
that's
go
it.
harder.
That's exactly it. And I mean, his story is obviously very intense, and he spoke about how his family kind of, I wouldn't say like came after him for it, but they definitely let him know that they had issues with how he kind of portrayed that kind of thing. Is that some kind of concern or consideration that you had when you were writing your own story?
Yeah, at the time. I'd say I'd say when we recorded it, yes, I was terrified and I did it anyways. And now I've mulled over it enough to be like, it just is what it is, and I will, I will
Yeah.
most likely, like in some capacity, maybe not even immediately, but there could be some kind of backlash. But um, also, it's just one of those things, I suppose, where I think like, well, maybe you shouldn't have lived your life with me that way up to this point. You could consider that, and we'll talk about it if you want. But like, I'm just a
Yeah.
person, and I'm here, and I did what I did, and I meant it. I meant every word. So
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, from my listening experience of the album, it sounds so deliberate. It's not like you were, trying to walk on eggshells around the issue. It's like you had your point of view and you said it very much straight up. I guess that, as we said, like that kind of ties into the whole self-empowerment idea of, ultra. And yeah. So, well, there you go. That makes perfect sense then. Um, Regarding the music itself, I mean, the music is diverse again, just like your vocals. Is that when you were in the studio recording and writing for this album, was that a writing process that was relatively seamless within the band, or was there a lot of creative differences? Because something like that, it feels like there would have been so many ideas just being thrown around and smacked down and built up and smacked down again. So, what was it like?
I mean, so we're definitely down to try anything. So if someone comes with an idea, even if we're skeptical at first, I want to hear it. Like,
Mhm.
I want you, whoever it is bringing the idea, I want you to bring what you consider is a final-ish version of this idea that you have. Or perhaps you're like, oh, I want to add this synth sound. Like, right here before this part, whatever. Like, and like whenever someone tries to explain it to you, like verbally, it never comes across how it should, I guess. So we're
Yes.
always just
Yeah.
like, it doesn't matter how you feel, show me a version that sounds like
Mhm.
that kind of thing. So we're always open to those kind of things. And it's never like, it's definitely never like a conflict if we trash it. It's just
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah, like, everyone's always in the room together when we're doing it. And we're like, maybe, or like there'll be times where it's just like, nope, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing. We're cooking. Like, we're like,
Yeah.
now we have a bit of a role going on from there.
Yeah.
And also sometimes it can just be a one man thing where someone just comes in and says, I've completed a song and it's badass. And we're
Yeah.
like, nice. It is awesome. But also there are times where like we'll do some things that feel like a little off the wall. And sometimes it does, for me personally, they'll come in with something off the wall and I'm like, that's terrifying. That's so cool. I have to make sure I can even like kind of like be up
Yeah.
to par with it and stuff. So like the last track on the record, where the piano comes in and stuff, I was like,
It caught me off guard.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
very out of nowhere, and it's especially the way that song right before it ends. It's just so fat and awesome. But I remember, so that song was written. I would say that song was finished, maybe with 2 days left in the studio, and like Tom, Tom is the one who does most of our synth work and stuff
Mhm.
like that. Like he loves it. It's him and our bass player Mackie. They do a lot of that. But
Mhm.
they came to me with the song, and they're like, "What do you think?" And I was like, me convinced that I'm like done writing the record. I'm like, it's awesome. Let's get to work. Like,
Damn
um,
it! I love you guys.
yeah, because at this point I'm so cooked. Like my brain is
Yeah.
on fire writing this record, and it's an everyday thing, right?
Yeah.
So they come in, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, come on, give it to me, and
Yeah.
but I'm very proud of how it ended up, and it's worth it. But yeah, sometimes they'll just hit you with like a last minute idea, or what's always really fun. Sometimes like I will have like disappeared into my little writing cave at the studio because I can't be bothered, you know,
Yeah.
or else I'm so easily distracted that I'll get nothing done. Um, so sometimes I'll disappear for like 5 or 6 hours, come back, bags under my eyes, I'm pale, like, um,
Yeah.
and I'm like, do you guys think this is good? And they're just like, well, we did something crazy, hit space bar,
Oh
and
no.
I'm like, another song, got it. So like, and
It's
it's
like, can
all,
someone
and
please
it's all,
pass me some sliced oranges? I need to go back
yeah,
in.
yeah. So which did result in a couple songs getting like axed and not making it in the final cut and stuff. But
Mm.
um yeah, definitely there's a lot of different things that people in the band bring to the table, and definitely whenever it comes, like once I get that final product and I'm really looking at it, sometimes it's a little
Yeah.
intimidating, but
Yeah.
um I think given the final product and how proud I am of the final product, I'm like, okay, we can do this. We're pretty good at this, right?
It's like we're getting somewhere. There's a feeling. There's a good feeling here.
Mm,
What was the like? Where did you go to? Like, which studio did you go to record? Was it done in house? Because I do a pretty good amount of stalking. Like, I thought I'm pretty good stalking wise, but I can't find anything about where you guys actually went to go record Ultra.
yeah, we recorded it with Randy LaBeouf at Graphic Nature. So
Okay,
yeah, yeah, and I mean Randy,
that's cool.
he's done Kubla Khan, Acacia
Acacia
Strain.
Strain. Yeah.
You just start moving down the list. He's done a bunch of people's records, and
Yes.
he's awesome. Yeah, we did it with Randy, and he's the best. EQ, his dog, the literal best. EQ's
His dog's called EQ.
Yep. And she's like a pit mix, and sweetest, most gentle, just awesome dog in the world. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, super awesome time. And we also had a lot of fun there. Like recording with Randy, it was refreshing because like we definitely do work for sure. But when it's all said and done, we go to the kitchen and we all gamble on dice and just keep going and doing that every single night. And just we were having a blast, and also doing one of the hardest things we've ever done in our lives. So it was awesome.
That's good. That's cool. I kind of had it in my head that you'd have your own room somewhere where it was just full of consoles, like PlayStation 1, like Sega. Like I just thought that you'd have this full-on game set up for you guys, like when you need to get away from yourselves for a moment.
There was so the studio had 2 floors, and on the first floor was where like the big TV was, and one of us did bring our PS5s, and like there were also a couple other consoles that were just like there already in the studio.
Oh, that's good.
We definitely gamed a little. I remember Hosian beat Ratchet and Clank, the new one, because it had just come out at the time. So he beat that while we were in the studio.
That's impressive.
Yeah. I beat nothing. I accomplished no gaming while I was there. I think Nolan did a playthrough of Death Stranding.
Wow.
I know Tom was playing a little bit of something on his Switch, but I don't remember what it was. It might have been Hades at the time, but a lot of that stuff, like especially like leading up to the studio, that was a lot of what I was doing, because I will personally pull inspiration from video games, like walking into writing a song, because I don't know, it's just like it's the language I know best, and like and those are like the stories that like I consume the most. So I don't know, just like, you know, sometimes I just decide, I'm like, I'm just gonna play this game, beat it, and see if anything comes to me along the way.
One of my questions was, which game do you think has had the most influence on writing for Ultra for you?
There is a series by director Yoko Taro called Nier. And the first Nier game that I had played, it was before I was ever in the band, but it was called Nier Automata. That's not the one that had the most influence on the record, but there was a game before that I had never played, just called Nier. And they had 2 different releases. There was the Japanese one and the American one, and depending on which one you got, you had a different protagonist. So they remastered it and put it out for PS4 and PS5. So I got to play the remaster, but whenever I went through and played the original Nier, that was huge influence on the entire record. The second song on the record is basically just a love letter to Nier. And yeah, I mean,
that's cool.
It really, like, even something I like to do lyrically is I try and like paint pictures with words and like make it like a little visual. And there are definitely a couple lines throughout the record, not even just, you know, the second song in particular, but there are a couple times throughout the record where like I'm actually more so just like stealing a scene from a game and repurposing it for my thing. So that game was huge impact on the record. And then like there were a couple anime as well that were like big for the record. Like Gurren Lagann, it's like a 2007 Gainax series. It's like super short, 25 episodes, just mecha, like dope, you know, big fight.
Can't beat that.
But yeah, that one has a big influence. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2.
Okay, cool.
And then Metal Gear, always, forever.
Yeah, I could kind of feel something along the lines of that one.
Yeah,
I was trying to put my finger on
I
it, but
have a
there's
Metal Gear Ray tattoo. Like
I love that so much.
I would die for Hideo Kojima, and he doesn't even know who I am.
I think, oh man, when I was younger, I had a PlayStation 1. I remember having like a demo version of that because it's one of those CDs where you get like 6 games on one. You get like a
Yes.
part of it, and Metal Gear was on that, along with like I think Gran Turismo and Tekken.
Yep.
And man, I was obsessed with it. I was like, why is this game only like half an hour long? Like, surely they would have had the budget to make something at least an hour, you know? Like, I was just so like non-knowledgeable when it came to that. But yeah, I mean, you can hear like a lot of influences on Ultra regarding that. There's especially like, you know, even just the synth kind of stuff, it does bring you into like almost like virtual reality world where you do feel like you're in this high intensity kind of almost like Doom Eternal, just like high intensity violent video gaming stuff.
That's a big one as well.
Yeah.
That one was big on us.
I put like 1,000 hours into that game.
Yeah, awesome game. So fun.
It's a bit too fun. Like, I lost a lot of time in that bloody game. But either way, not about me. What's a game that you're looking forward to this year?
Until I found out it was pushed back into 2023, I was going to say God of War. But now it kind of feels like there's slim pickings, honestly. Like there are games that have already come out that I'm obsessed with and I think are amazing, like Elden Ring. I and everyone else on Earth love it, and that game is unbelievable. Is master class. It's masterclass gaming. Not just because they're doing the standard FromSoft thing. It's Dark Souls 3, but a million times better. And I already love Dark Souls 3, but specifically that game does a thing where it gives you this story in this world that is so complex, but it gives you a simple way to go through it. And with a lot of like newer games that have been coming out from the 2010s and on, a lot of those games do a lot of unnecessary things that honestly just are annoying for the player. And Elden Ring takes a lot of that stuff away and just says, do whatever you want, man. Like, you figure it out. And
this is your game. Yeah.
And it's awesome. Like it still does things that like help guide you down the path, but really like just a lot of like annoying things are missing from that game, and they're present in every other game. So it's like super refreshing, while at the same time you realize they didn't actually do anything to make it refreshing, which is what worked.
Yeah, what works. Yeah.
So but there will definitely be something, I'm sure, that like jumps out at me on this back half of the year. I'm sure, and honestly, something's probably just like getting past me in my mind right now. I'm sure there's something that I'm like, oh no, I'm so excited to play that, but I just can't think of it right now.
I know there's one called the Callisto Protocol, which is coming out in like October. That's the one that you're after? Yeah, sick.
I need it. I need that one.
It feels like the perfect sequel to the first Dead Space.
Yes. And it's hilarious because even a lot of those animations are like copy and paste. Like that stomp animation is literally the exact same. That looks like a screen recording from my Xbox. No, I'm so excited for that, because especially like a lot of like the gun play in that, it looks terrifying because it looks very erratic, and like it has like a lot of recoil, because it felt like even in the first one, while it's still terrifying, in the first one there's like a lot more control with your gun. This one, you take one shot and your cursor goes all the way up here, and you have to readjust, and it's still running at you.
It's a super insecure looking game. Like you look like you're never going to be safe.
No,
never. That's kind of what I'm excited about. It's kind of like Alien Isolation. But look, honestly, we could talk about games probably for like the next 5 years. So apart from knowing that you guys love your video games, what is something about Ultra that you want listeners to take away?
something that I want listeners to take away from the record in particular is that I feel like is so dynamic that I feel confident in saying that you could put the band in any room and someone will like something about it. And whether that be any of like the songs that have like singing on them to some of the songs that are like very breakdown heavy and like just fun to some of the stuff that's pretty technical and like very like thrashing like Meshuggah-esque like just metal. And I mean one thing like I always always as if it's existed forever, but one thing I usually say when people ask me what the record sounds like and they haven't heard it, I always say it basically the band is trying to be like Dillinger Escape Plan's answer to Hatebreed. And like there's some like really like knuckle dragger like pencil fisting like stuff, while at the same time there's stuff where like someone who's looking for something that maybe sounds more intelligent or like genty, like you'll get that too. Like or if someone is looking for something that is just like a little bit more ballady and you don't even have to really think about it, we've got it. You know what I mean? So I hope that's the takeaway that people get, is that the band can do generally anything.
All in one album as well.
Yeah,
all in one very well written album. And that comes out this Friday, is it not? June 17th.
Friday.
Let me check my notes. June 17th, this Friday via Unified. So people, if you don't listen to this, you're an absolute idiot. I mean, you cannot skip this thing. So this Friday, Unified Ultra by Vatican. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Good luck on the rest of your tour. I hope that you guys are safe and that you hope that you have a great time.
Of course. Yeah. Awesome. Dude, thank you for having me.
No worries, man. Take care.